So, welcome everyone to the second lecture of Web3HUB ZLIN, where we'll be talking about the secrets of blockchain, as well as recapping on what we covered in our last session. So, before we begin, I would just like to welcome Roman Valehrak, who will be talking to us and sharing his expertise. He's part of the CoinMate company, which is the largest Czech exchange for cryptocurrency, and we've managed to attract him here this evening to share his story with us. In the middle of our presentation, you can see that we have a QR code. So this is for questions. So if you would like to scan the QR code, it will take you to a website where you can ask any question you would like about blockchain, about Bitcoin, about anything that you hear today. So feel free to scan it. It'll be here, and then when Roman starts his presentation, it will also appear as well several times. Okay, so my name is Josh Wheeler, so I think that we can dive in and begin our recap. So, Web3HUB ZLIN, we brought these different ideas to you to show you what the world of Web3 is all about and how you can learn something that might be affecting your future. So we're going to dive in and we're going to talk about Web3 first of all. So what is Web3? The focus of Web3 is on decentralization and data ownership. So we're going to look at those 2 points and discuss what they actually mean. So Web3 and Web 3.0, first of all, they are similar, but they are slightly different. So Web3 is more focused on decentralization and allowing people to control their own data, giving them the power that they would like to have over their own data without the larger corporations being in control of it. Whereas Web 3.0 is more about the technology aspect of it, how we can use these future concepts of technology to improve our interaction with Web3, with blockchain, and with decentralization. So, before we get to where we are moving to in the future with Web 3, we have to talk about the past. So we have Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3, and they consisted of 3 different elements. So Web 1 was static or read-only web, where you would connect from one side to another through a hyperlink, but there was no interaction from your side. You would just be able to read the information on the website. Web 2.0 is where we are now. It's read and write, more like a social web, so you can interact with other people, you can put your own ideas out there, your creativity can be put online so everyone can see it. And Web 3.0 or Web 3 is read, write, and own. So giving you more ownership and control over the information that you put online. Okay? So that's the data ownership part. Now we're going to be talking about decentralization. So what is decentralization? How decentralized are we? We can see a lot of companies here that would be off-the-shelf products that you could buy from day to day. And we can see that many of them are owned by much larger corporations, which you probably also know the names of. Yeah? Just for example, up here we can see Cadbury chocolate is one, Milka is there, Monster, Lay's, just to name a few of these products, but they are underneath a larger group. Yeah? But it doesn't stop there. It goes even further. Those larger groups are owned by even larger ones, but those larger ones are very low in number. So we can see 3 names: Vanguard, State Street, BlackRock. You may be hearing about these names that are coming up more and more now in the news. However, it's something that's been very well hidden in the past. They've not wanted to be put in the limelight. They have a massive control over the S&P 500, and almost every single company here, the top 3 shareholders are State Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock. We can see here that on the ETF industry, exchange-traded funds, that they hold the majority share. Around 80% of the money that is flowing back and forth is going through them. And it's actually interesting because each of them, the main shareholders of BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, are BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard. So they're all in the same circle together. So that's our first concept of Web3, this decentralization and giving you back ownership. So your data now, this is us. Whenever you put something online, whether it's your photo images, whether it's your videos, whether it's you share an address or anything like this, which I hope nobody is nowadays, it goes through your social media and then it can be sold to a third party. And these third parties are usually marketing agencies, but they're owned by these larger corporations. Google, Meta, for example, they have the power to use that data even if they say they don't. Here we can look at CAPTCHAs, and CAPTCHA is a form of a learning model that we were influencing because it would ask us questions about certain terminology, words. We can see that the images were used for street names, for street numbers, used for learning and developing their own modules for automatic vehicles and for recognizing certain images that the computers wouldn't recognize without our input. It was rebranded to reCAPTCHA later on, and it developed to a point now where we're using this very, very simple system, I'm Not a Robot, where you click the square and the computer accepts that. And that's all you think it is. However, it's not actually the clicking of the square that tells the computer that you're not a robot or the website, but it's actually the movement of your mouse before it gets to the square. A bot will just click it automatically without much movement of the mouse, whereas with you as a human, you move it much more. Okay. So that's decentralization and data ownership, and that was what we covered in our first session. So we have a YouTube video that you can look at, and it will give you much more detailed information about that. From there, we move on. We're going to skip over blockchain and crypto because that's why we have Roman here today. He's going to help us understand that a little bit better. So we're going to move to Internet of Things, DAOs, and NFTs. So the Internet of Things is the connectivity between your devices. So as we are getting more and more smart devices, your phone, your refrigerator, your printer, your dishwasher. My dishwasher died today. However, it's not smart, so we didn't know that it was going to happen. Now we're going to have to buy a smart one so we can avoid that in the future. And so these smart devices are connected, and they are allowing you to know what's going on inside, and it can help you to make your life a little bit more efficient. The connectivity that we're going to need for smart devices and for the Internet of Things is 5G. So 5G is just increasing the capacity generally for the speed of communication between the devices, the volume of communication between those devices, and also allowing for the less failure between the connectivity. So for now, if the internet drops, everything would stop working. But with 5G, with the connectivity more global, it will stop the drop of connection happening. All right, from there we move to NFTs. So we have this nice little image here that explains the difference between the fungible and non-fungible physical and digital assets. So fungible and physical assets are like money, gold, things that we can see, we can feel. My gold is the same as your gold, holds the same value. Then we have fungible and digital, which is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and also loyalty points. Yeah, those things that you would collect when you go to the shop and you scan your membership card, you collect these digital points. Yeah. From there we move to non-fungible and physical. So these are that one-of-ones, cinema tickets or Mona Lisa or your home. Yeah. For example, if you have a house, your house is going to be just a little bit different, a unique one. So that's why we have the physical non-fungible. And from there we can move on to skins in video games. There's CryptoKitties. But then you can also have your important documents, identity documents, your school documents. These can all be put online, and they are your digital asset. No one else has access to it, but it's one of one. Okay, from there we move to decentralized autonomous organizations. These are still in the very early stage of development. However, they are promising. In the future, they could be very valuable tools for us. And the idea behind a decentralized autonomous organization is that there's no boss, there's no one in charge. The decisions are made and put forward by the members who hold some value of the token that the DAO would represent. So the more DAO you hold, the more voting power you have to make those decisions come true, to fruition. This is what it would look like. You would have the members who would hold some value, they would put an idea forward, and based on their vote, and the other people's vote, the idea can be either accepted or rejected. Yeah? Every decision they put forward, they have to add more value into the DAO. They put more money in, they have a stronger vote possibility. Okay, from DAOs, NFTs, and IoT, we move to AI. So AI, it's been in the news quite a lot recently, but the general idea behind AI is that we have weak or narrow AI, which is what we have now. And then we have strong or general, which is where we're moving towards in the future. So The basic form of AI is that it perceives the environment, it understands what it's doing, it detects a pattern, how to behave. Once it learns from that behavior, it updates and understands and then decides how to move forward from that. Now we are working with large language models, so for them it's more of a predictive behavior. You put an input in and you receive something out, but it predicts what you expect to receive. Alrighty. We watched a quite graphic video last time we were here about AI, how AI can be used for copying voice, copying image, and with the ability to use this properly, it could be quite an effective tool for scammers, for people to really steal someone else's identity, with just a few minutes of voice or video recording. From AI, we moved into cybercrime, which is heavily connected. A great example we could use is that if you took a simple USB and you put it somewhere, in a car park, on a bench, inside a company, in the foyer that someone could easily grab, the first person that grabs it is probably going to plug it into the computer. So that would allow the hacker access to the system within their building, and from there they could use that to block the system and then demand some kind of ransom. So that's why it's called ransomware. It blocks the computer. And now with crypto, they can ask for Bitcoin or any form of cryptocurrency, and because it's mainly anonymous, there will be no tracing the person who did that. So it's quite a big aspect. Also connected with stolen identity and documentation and so on. Okay, from cybercrime, we're going to move into trading. So this is a great representation of the psychology of a market cycle. And we can see that it rallies, people start to gain hope, it moves up, people are excited, they think they're going to live forever on the 10 Bitcoin that they hold. Then they think just a little bit longer, it starts to drop. No, it's going to come back up, we don't have to worry. It goes down, 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 they feel anger, they panic, they lose everything. That's it, never again, I'm never investing. It's starting to go up again, maybe I should buy some more. Now, if you look at the market, we can see that we've increased quite dramatically from 6 months ago. So we can see that we are starting to gain more momentum with cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoin. Many people that you speak to who are involved in cryptocurrency and trading, they'll probably tell you, we are here. But where is here? Nobody knows. Okay, from there we move over to here. So we can see the top 10 performing trading cryptocurrencies in the world. The main one, of course, being Bitcoin, and in second place we see Ethereum. The price that we have there was from, I think it's around 2 months ago, so 28,000, and today I checked the price just before, it's at 37 something or other. So we've increased quite dramatically, even in such a short time frame. Okay, so with this information we can see how much money has been used and circulated through the crypto. So at the highest point, around 3 trillion was being circulated. Now we're about the $1 trillion mark. We can see the volume, how much Bitcoin is traded on the scale. So this is a all-time scale, but if you looked at the daily scale, you could see how much is being traded per day, per hour, per 5 minutes. The last two are down here, and they're the Bitcoin dominance, how strong Bitcoin is against all the other, if you remember the 10 that we saw there, how strong that is against all of them. And then we have the crypto fear greed index. So this is how people are feeling about buying or selling their Bitcoin. If many people are buying, then the greed is going up. If many people are selling, then the fear is quite strong. They want to try to cash in before it gets too low. Okay, here we can see a very short excerpt from a white paper, and this one in particular is from Bitcoin, which Roman is going to explain a lot more to us about. But we can see that the concept of it is that it's a project that solves a problem. And when you create a white paper, the white paper is meant to be a roadmap in academic terms that people can read and understand what the solution is that this is providing. So if you know about Bitcoin, you understand that it's for e-cash, for electronic currency that people could use. So it holds value based on some form of work, which Roman will also explain. Okay, from crypto, we move to blockchain, which is why we're all here today. So blockchain is quite a complex discussion topic, because it's not so easy as just blocks and chains. Not that simple. So blockchains, the concept came from digital timestamps, which is the way to make sure that the recording of the information placed in a ledger or some form of record was not tampered with, was not changed in any way. So they needed to develop a system that would allow the information to stay valid. So that's where timestamps come from. The first proper use of this timestamp or the blockchain was Bitcoin, and it was created by Satoshi Nakamoto, and who is a figure that no one knows the true identity of. But he was the first one to really use that. So if you have a chance to read his white paper, he will explain his use of blockchain as the immutable ledger. So we know that the blockchain can do at least two things. The two features that we want to talk about is that once the data is recorded, it's impossible to change. Theoretically, it's impossible to change. And that data is visible for everyone to see. However, the data that we see is not really recognizable. Yeah? So when we talk about a distributed ledger compared to a centralized ledger, we can compare a centralized ledger to a bank. You have the bank headquarters. All the transactions, all the information that the bank would like to be in control of would run through that central database. So the bank is the one that has control. They see everything that goes in and out and all the happenings within the bank. Whereas with a distributed ledger, they are allowing this information to share, and everyone who's involved and in that ledger can have access to it and verify if yes or no that something was performed. Okay, so this is a blockchain. A block from a blockchain. Inside the block, we can see there are three very important things. We have data, we have the hash, and the hash of the previous block. So the hash of the previous block is the very important one that makes us know that it's still valid, it's still true. The main data that's held in it is the transaction from, to, and the amount that is sent between those people. Then we have this hash. It's a long piece of code made up of numbers and letters. And there are two hashes in a blockchain. One is the hash of the current blockchain, and one is the hash of the previous blockchain. If you change anything within the block, it can be a space, it can be a full stop, it can be a letter, a number, anything, the hash will absolutely change. It won't be recognizable as a similar hash at all, yeah? Based on the algorithm that is used for creating it. So once all that information is there and recorded, then we have the continuation of the block based on people agreeing that the block is still valid. So here we can see we have the original block, which is called a genesis block, and each block has a hash and then the hash of the previous block plus its current real hash. If something were to change and the hash would be different, then the third block would become invalid. So everything going back to this point would then be changed according to the validators. Okay. So Roman will also explain hashing and proof of work a little bit more clearly, but these are two very important methods that explain how the block is created, what allows the block to be validated by the people who are involved, because they're the ones that do this work. They're the ones that do the hashing, and the hashing is heavily connected with the proof of work because they have to prove that there's value in that block by the work they perform. Okay, with that, I hand it over to Roman. So thank you very much for listening. Roman, it's all yours. I'll put it across there. Take that one.
Hi, welcome to my presentation about the basics of Bitcoin and the blockchain. If you have any questions, just post it there and we can answer them in the middle of my presentation. My name is Roman Valerac and I'm the co-founder of the only and the biggest cryptocurrency exchange in the Czech Republic. It was co-founded with my partner Daniel. We found out about Satoshi white paper sometimes in 2011 and we found it very interesting, so we started mining crypto, and in 2014 we decided to found our exchange. In the same year we were invited to a morning live show for housewives, which was very funny because we were explaining to ladies at home what is Bitcoin at the time. So it's 9 years ago, while they were cooking some food and talking about all kinds of normal life stuff. So I don't know if they get what Bitcoin was back then, but if they did, they might be rich today. Before we start talking about Bitcoin and the blockchain, well, I'm going to tell you something about money and function, the store of value, which money is losing accelerate faster and faster throughout the years. This picture is from the US, and it illustrates how you could buy a full shopping cart of groceries for just one banknote, and the same banknote today doesn't buy you very much at all. Whereas Bitcoin had no value when it was released in January 2009. But in 2010, there was the first payment made in Bitcoin, and it was for 2 pizzas. Someone paid 10,000 Bitcoin. So that was the first real transaction. It was on the 22nd of May 2010. And since then, this day is called the Pizza Day, and it's celebrated by the Bitcoin community. Today, you can buy just a decent card for 1 Bitcoin. Depends on what year. In year 2021, you could buy a sports car. Today, you just can buy a regular car. I'm going to illustrate another example, and that is if you have money on a current account, and this example is in Czech crowns. If you had 100,000 crowns in your bank account in 2008, how much real value do you think it would have today? It's actually almost 40% less. So that's in just 15 years. And if you extrapolate that to the future, how much value do you think your money will have in 2040, or if you're saving at the time that you go to your pension? Another example here is about the pension system that the governments have, which is the current flow where economically active people pay for the pensionists. And in 2006, it was 4 economically active people paying for 1 pensionist. Today, it's half. It's only 2 people paying for the 1 pension, and we can speculate what that would be in 2040 or whenever we go to our pension. So what do you do? What can we do about it? One solution is to use the savings account, but that's not a real solution, because it's illustrated here that the standard savings account can give you yield about 4%, whereas the inflation in Czech Republic last year was 15%. So you're losing even if you have money in your savings account. So the only solution how to have some savings is to invest. Here's the QR code again if anyone wants to scan and post questions on Slido. Einstein once claimed that compounding interest is the most powerful force in the universe and the 8th wonder of the world. Einstein probably didn't say it, but if you search that phrase on the internet, you can find it in various places. Well, compounding interest, it is a very interesting phenomenon, because it means that if you start investing in 0.0 and you keep reinvesting the yields that you have from your investment, the amount that you're going to have from it will grow exponentially. Here's an example. If you start saving at 25, 35, or 45, how much money you will have when you go to retirement at 65. And you can see that the amounts differ in time. And the appreciation here is 8%. Here you can see it in a graph. You can notice that further in time, these curves get wider apart. So that means the sooner you start saving, the more money you will have in the end. And what can you invest in? In Czech Republic, the most popular are equity funds and real estate. Equity funds don't really cover the inflation. If you invest in real estate, you're covered for inflation, but it's a lot of work, and it's a complicated investment because you have to take care of the property, and you have to pay for all kinds of stuff like water, heat, internet, and you have to pay for repairs and stuff like that. In Czech Republic, also gold is a very popular investment, but the fact is that if you invested in gold in 2012, it took 8 years before you get to your price, because gold between 2008 and 2020 decreased to a negative yield. The reason is that gold is difficult, it's not easily divisible, it's not easily tradable, and it's very hard to store. So what happens is that all the gold is in safes and paper gold is being traded. And what's happened is, and in the previous years, there's 20 times more of paper gold generated than of the real gold. So it's being traded 20 times more of what the actually asset is in real life. The most modern instrument for investment is an ETF. I mean, before there was cryptocurrency, ETF was the most up-to-date type of investment. And we can name S&P 500 or NASDAQ index, which are very popular types of investments, and they do cover inflation in the long run. So that was up until cryptocurrency, mainly Bitcoin. This graph is since 2018, and you can see that Bitcoin is by far the best performing asset. This is in comparison to S&P 500 and gold. You can also notice how volatile the price of Bitcoin is. So it's kind of difficult to invest in Bitcoin, but in the long run, if you don't look at the graph, in the long run, Bitcoin will eventually be a very positive investment. This is an example of investing in Bitcoin. Charlie Munger, which is a partner of Warren Buffett, one of the most famous investors, once claimed, and he was asked, how can you become financially independent? Meaning you have enough money to cover future costs of your living and live a happily wealthy life. He said that the first $100,000 is the hardest. You need to get there, and I don't care if you walk everywhere by foot and eat cheap food, but you need to get to that first $100,000, which in terms of in Czech koruna, that would be 2.5 million crowns. So this example shows if you want to get there in 10 years, that would mean that you would have to invest 5,000 crowns every month for those 10 years. That means 60,000 crowns a year. And this is a hypothetical example in Bitcoin, which it would be volatile, but in the end, you should be able to reach that target. And for that, CoinMate can help you because you can set up a so-called DCA or regular investment where you can choose either Bitcoin or Ethereum and set up a recurring payment in your bank. And you don't have to care about it because every time the payment is received in your CoinMate account, it's automatically converted to Bitcoin and Ethereum. So this is called the dollar cost averaging investment, where you don't worry if Bitcoin is really high or really low or wherever in the middle. And so these are the advantages of the DCA strategy. You don't buy at the highest value. We know at the exchange that most people start investing in Bitcoin at the all-time high moments. All-time high means that those are the times where Bitcoin is attacking a value that has never previously been. Usually that's every year, 4 years. Last time it was at the end of 2021. And there's a hype and so-called FOMO, or fear of missing out, where you can read that in the news. And the news, like those stories where Bitcoin is attacking the highest value ever. So we're writing about it and people are like, wow, I need to invest now. But that's the wrong time, because when it's hitting all-time highs, that's too late. You need to start earlier. And that's what the DCA helps you with. You don't need to have a full amount to start at once. It helps you with the psychology, because when you start investing and you finally decide to invest some lump of money into Bitcoin, then you can find out that later that it's maybe 10% in a loss, and it's very emotionally demanding. And you have more time to study Bitcoin, because someone once said that you need at least 100 hours to study Bitcoin to fully understand it. And you have a higher chance to buy in the dips, which are the lowest. There's a time when Bitcoin is at the lowest value in some years, and that means that you can buy a lot of Bitcoin in those times. And as I said, it eliminates stress and emotions. One more time for questions. And so as Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, non-traditional investment, we're going to look at the optics of Czech population. It's estimated that 10% of people in the Czech Republic have some experience with cryptocurrencies. It's mainly men with higher education, and usually around 30 to 44 years, full 45 years old. And in the world, it's estimated that already 400 million people have invested in some types of cryptocurrency. So why is Bitcoin so important? One of the most important characteristics of Bitcoin is the decentralization. It means that there's no one entity, no one governmental oversight that would that would be guiding what Bitcoin is doing. Bitcoin is decentralized because anyone who can download the node of Bitcoin is actually providing the network for Bitcoin. There is no one central authority telling those nodes what to do. They're fully independent. Bitcoin is based on an immutable ledger. That means that the transactions are being stored in chains of blocks, or otherwise blockchain, and those transactions cannot be changed. Once they're confirmed in the blockchain, they're unchangeable, and they will be there like that forever. Bitcoin is censorship resistant, so not like in bank accounts where you can have your bank account closed or you can become bankless. In Bitcoin, there's no one who can take your Bitcoin or tell you not to use Bitcoin. And it's permissionless, which means that anyone can participate on the network. You don't have to ask anyone for permission to download the Bitcoin node or to start mining Bitcoin. And the code is open source, which means that you can check the rules upon which Bitcoin works. And that also counts for Ethereum and Ethereum smart contracts. And so you can build your own project on the already existing projects. You don't have to start from scratch. You can just take something that's already working and build on top of that. The disadvantages, we already spoke about the high volatility, and there are some regulatory risks. Honestly, governments don't like Bitcoin very much, so they're trying to push laws against it. But in Europe, right now, we have a new framework called MiCA, which will try to regulate Bitcoin and put rules of the game, because there are no rules at this time. And that means that, for example, institutions are unable to invest in Bitcoin because they have no law, which they could use for that. And there are technical challenges if you don't understand Bitcoin, that you can make a mistake, like send Bitcoin somewhere where you can lose it, or if you lose your backup of your wallet, then you can lose everything. So here are some facts about Bitcoin. Does anyone know who this guy is? Well, Bitcoin was invented by Satoshi Nakamoto, but we don't know who Satoshi Nakamoto was. It sounds like a Japanese name, but we don't know if it was one person or if it was a group of people. We don't know. We have no information of who it was. This guy there is Dorian Nakamoto, which is a Japanese person living in California, and some journalists thought that it could be him. It could be the inventor, so they were chasing him with cameras and trying to interview him to tell them about the invention of Bitcoin. Bitcoin will never have more than 21 million coins. Some of them already lost, so it will be even less. And 19.5 million have already been mined, so there's only 1.5 million Bitcoin to go. It will never be more. It will never even be 21 million because it's a curve that reaches that number but never reaches that number. So it will be something about 21 million in the year 2040. We talked about the decentralization, which means that there are hundreds or thousands of nodes around the world that synchronize Bitcoin transactions, and each one of them has the whole ledger downloaded in it. You can have that at home. It has about half a terabyte, so you can download Bitcoin node and provide the service to the system yourself. Bitcoin transactions are irreversible. Once you send Bitcoin, it's gone. And the addresses are a character of string formats. They're actually public and private keys. You can provide the public key to anyone, and that's the address that anyone can send you Bitcoin to. But you need the private key, which you don't show to anyone, and that private key is to provide the ownership. So when you want to send Bitcoin, you use your private key. Another interesting thing is the mining. Bitcoin is being mined. What it means that is you create new Bitcoins by solving a mathematical solution called SHA-256. And you're trying to hash a block of transactions into a special hash, and it's based on randomness. So you don't know how many times you will have to try changing the parameters and hash the transactions to solve the equation. But if you're lucky and you get the right solution, you're being rewarded. At the beginning, you would get 50 Bitcoin. Today, you get only 6.25, I think. So every 10 minutes, a new block is created, and that means that every 10 minutes, new Bitcoins are being minted. And you can pay with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is already being used. For example, you can buy anything on Alza store here in the Czech Republic by paying with Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is anonymous, so there are transactions on the blockchain which you do not know who they belong to. But once you know a chain of transactions, if you know the origin, who owns it, you can find out the whole chain of people who are being paid. So it's not fully anonymous. It's called pseudo-anonymous. The invention of Satoshi Nakamoto was based on 40 years of research. And the principles that Bitcoin is based on, like cryptography, were being used many years before. So cryptography was known for a long time before it was used in Bitcoin. And Bitcoin was just a very nice solution to put all these inventions together and make them a working mechanism. Proof of work was also invented before, and it was a reaction on spamming, because when internet was invented in the 80s, there was already the problem known that you can send spam. It means you can send as many transactions, as many emails as you want, and you're not being punished for it. So there was a proposal for a proof of work solution that you have to spend some energy to be able to send something. And so Bitcoin was based on this idea. And another one is the distributed or peer-to-peer network. Some of you may know BitTorrent, which was being used before the invention of Bitcoin for sharing files. And the hashing function has been used also a long time ago. Something like hashing functions in cryptography were used on World Wide Web, like for secured pages. And what is blockchain? Blockchain is a database, but it's a new type of a database, because in a regular database, you can easily change, delete, or manipulate data. In blockchain, it's the data are being stored in blocks, and once those blocks are hashed and distributed all over the network, so that other nodes have the same copy and they agree for the state of the blockchain, then it's not reversible. Once it's stored in the blockchain, it stays like that forever. So it's called the universal truth, and the transactions are stored in the right order, how they happened, and they're irreversible. Bitcoin is being used for transactions, as I already noted, and to this day, the value of transactions in Bitcoin have already surpassed PayPal, and we assume that sometimes in the future, when properly used on the layer 2 of Bitcoin, it will probably surpass Visa and MasterCard too. And now we're going to talk about some interesting facts about Bitcoin. When Bitcoin was deployed, so the inventor Satoshi Nakamoto posted a so-called white paper on a forum proposing how Bitcoin should work. And not long after that, he deployed the actual software, and it was made. It was in January 2009, and since then the system started living its life, and it hasn't stopped since then. It's the longest working software without a single it never stopped for a moment. And the interesting fact is that in the blockchain there was the first block called the Genesis block. That's when the Bitcoin started, and the inventor put a message in the first block, which is actually the title of the UK Times, and the title was "Chancellor on Brink of Second Bailout for Banks." So he's never said anything about this, why he did that, what's the reason for that, but it's being speculated that Bitcoin was released as an answer to the big financial crisis in 2007 and 2008, because at the time the fractional banking that we have is very dependent on reputation, and when the reputation goes down, there's actually a big hole in the whole system, which at the time was covered from taxpayers' money. Bitcoin solved the Byzantine generals' problem. Scientists thought that up until the Bitcoin invention, that this game theory of Byzantine's general problem had no solution. It means that there are independent generals trying to attack one city, but they don't know of each other, and they could only communicate through messengers, and they don't know if those messengers are not hacked, so they could not trust each other. So independent people or nodes that don't trust each other should coordinate on the same result. The Byzantine generals were supposed to attack a town at the same time, so they should either attack at the same time or withdraw at the same time, but they had no coordination. There was no one entity that would tell them what to do. And it's the same with Bitcoin. With Bitcoin, there is no one entity checking what all the nodes are doing, but the nodes cooperate independently. And Bitcoin is based on blockchain, on the private and public keys. So the blockchain is public. You can look at the blockchain, for example, at blockchain.com, and you will see all the transactions that happened since 2009. And you can see how much money was sent and to whom, but you don't see the actual identities, you only see the addresses. Another interesting fact is that the Bitcoin price evolves in 4-year cycles. And it's caused by so-called halving. Because when Bitcoin started, it was mined every 10 minutes. There were 50 Bitcoin being mined. And in 2012, there was the first mining. And the reward for mining Bitcoin was halved. So it was only 25 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. You can see that at the first halving in 2012, it had a huge effect on the price, because if there's some demand and the supply is slashed into a half, it has a high pressure on the value, on the price. In the following years, there's been already 2 halvings and 2 another halvings in 2016 and 20. People were already speculating on the halving, so the price started growing much earlier, like 6 months before the actual halving. And we're expecting the next one in April or May 2024. So it's been around 6 months just recently, just about few weeks ago. And you can see the pressure on price because people are already speculating on the halving. And so what happens is that if there's a pressure, the price starts rising, and it creates that FOMO, which is fear of missing out. So more and more people are investing, and the price keeps rising and rising. When it gets to an exponential curve, and it breaks down. So there's like a 2.5 year so-called bull cycle when the price is growing, and there's about a 1.5 year bear cycle when the price goes down until it finds a new bottom and it starts growing again. And here are the differences between central banking and Bitcoin. Central banking has one authority that decides what anyone can do, and that's the central bank. In Bitcoin, there's no central authority, everyone's independent. Central banking is based on printing money. The money is being printed out of thin air, has no value, it's only based on new debt being generated. In Bitcoin is being generated in the process that we have been talking here about, which is the proof of work mining, and there will never be more than 21 million Bitcoin. In central banking, you are being traced all over the place. Every transaction you do is known to the subjects that you bank with. In Bitcoin, it's anonymous, so unless you reveal your identity, nobody knows that you've made a Bitcoin transaction. And the central banking is based on loans, so it's money are created by issuing loans, whereas Bitcoin's main function is the store of value. And the whole central banking is based on intermediaries. I don't know if you know, but if you pay with a credit card, there's about 10 intermediaries between you and the actual receiver. Whereas in Bitcoin, when you're paying, it's peer-to-peer cash, so you're paying directly to that person, and there's nobody in the middle. And here are some differences between Bitcoin and the second largest cryptocurrency, which is Ethereum. We've already talked about the creation of Bitcoin, and we don't know who was the inventor, but we know who invented Ethereum, and it was Vitalik Buterin, which is a Russian immigrant to Canada, And in 2015, he released the white paper for Ethereum, because before he was in Bitcoin Foundation, but he didn't like the fact that one characteristic of Bitcoin, which is programmability, which you can make programs on the blockchain, was not supported by the community. They said you don't need the programmability, even though Bitcoin is programmable. We're only going to focus on the store of value. So he created his own cryptocurrency, and that is actually not about the store of value, but the main reason for Ethereum is the function is a decentralized computer, which means that it functions for the blockchain where you can deploy a so-called smart contract. The smart contract lives on the blockchain, so once you deploy it there, you pay a fee for it, it's there forever. And the smart contracts has a function of what you put in it, so it can do all kinds of stuff. And the cryptocurrency Ether in Ethereum is actually used as a gas, as something that you pay for running those smart contracts. Whereas Bitcoin is limited in quantity, we don't know how much Ethereum there will be. It's estimated around 120 million units. The reason is that Ethereum, when it started, it used the same function for creating Ethereum, that's proof of work, where you have to spend energy to mine new Bitcoin or Ethereum. And just recently, last year, they changed the system from proof of work, where you burning energy, to proof of stake, where you validate Ethereum transactions by storing Ethereum in a node, and the node is then validating transactions. And if the node would be malleable, would be not doing it correctly, then your Ethereum would be slashed and lost. So you're motivated to for your node to work properly, and when it does, you receive around 4% reward for the staked Ethereum. Yeah, and that's the mining we've talked about right now. So that's the first part of my monologue. You can register a Coinmate and receive a bonus at the start, and we're going to talk more about the blockchain now.
Right. Thank you very much, Roman. If you guys could put your hands together, please. Thank you very much. So I would like now just to put a website up on the main screen. So if you'd be able to talk to us a little bit more about nodes and their functionality. So I'll put it up here on the main screen. Live map. So if you could just explain to us what we can see up here, what the nodes are doing, and explain the numbers a little bit more to us. So what are the dots? What are the numbers flashing? What's the blue bar at the bottom? What do they all mean?
Yeah, since this class is about the mysteries of Bitcoin, so a blockchain, so we're gonna show some interesting stuff about blockchain. We talked about the independence of the nodes, so anyone can deploy a node anywhere in the world and start either mining or validating Bitcoin transactions. So you can see the actual nodes around the world, and the total number is, where is that total number?
Is it the network availability? 15,000 on the bottom right.
When you, I know that this is consistent availability. Yeah, that's around 16,000 nodes. Mm-hmm. When you look at where they are located, Josh, can you point at these dots right there? Yeah. You see that 65% are behind Tor, behind a VPN, so they're actually behind a secret network, so that no one knows where those nodes are located. The reason is that Bitcoin is being attacked by the government, so now the system is so decentralized and so very well programmed that it's actually undestroyable, and the Tor network is one of the reasons that it's hidden, so no one can know where those nodes are actually located. Then you can look at some of the Hetzner that's in Germany is 5%, and AWS is Amazon around 2%, and Google so 1%. So those are the data centers that run some Bitcoin, but usually they're independently run from either homes or people's offices. What other numbers we have? At the top right corner, you can see the version of the software. The current version, the newest version of the Bitcoin software is 25.1, but you can run older versions of the software and they're backwards compatible, meaning that the algorithm or the consensus doesn't change. It changed only a few times in the history of Bitcoin, and it's called a hard fork, when there's some major difference that the community agrees upon, and at those times everyone has to run the newest node, otherwise you would not receive new blocks. But the last time that happened was 2017, and since then Bitcoin has been running on the same algorithm with no changes. Consensus height is the last block number, so you can see that there's been 818,000 blocks mined since 2009. Right, that's about it.
Right, thank you very much. Okay, so now I'm just going to bring up TX Street. And I'll launch that. So TX Street is a great visualizer that was created by the very clever people at Texas University, and it visualizes and shows us the blocks being prepared with the transactions.
We need to reload it. It happened. The same thing happened last time, right?
Already? Oh, sorry.
Or you need to close and open it again.
Close and open. Okay, unfortunately. That's a shame. But TX Street is a great visualizer, so if you guys would like to check it out, definitely have a look. And you'll see two columns with blockchains that are in the process of being created. The transactions are entering. And on one side, you can see, what are they called?
It's a bus or train?
It's like a bus or train, but on the left-hand side is those little houses, and are there for the, not for proof of work, but for proof of stake.
One is Ethereum, I think on the left, and there's Bitcoin on the right. And there's a difference in those two blockchains. Then Bitcoin is being mined every 10 minutes, whereas Ethereum is being proved every about 15 seconds. And you can see that independent transactions trying to fit those buses, and some of them don't fit. But it's hard to talk about it if you can't see it.
Maybe I can find just some images of it.
So this is the visualization of Bitcoin blockchain. This is a public page that anyone can look at. And here you can see the transactions as you go. So within 1 second there are many transactions being sent. You can see that they're quite high. There's about 50,000, 60,000, 40,000. So they're quite valuable transactions. Here you can see that that's the block number. So there's 120,000 blocks, and this is the hash rate. That means that's the current what do you call it in English? Hash rate is the computing power being used for mining blocks. It's actually 3.5 exahash, so it's 15 zeros. It's a huge number, and it means that every second there's this number of the hashing function being deployed. So it's just huge. It's burning energy as much as some small country. And the reason is for Bitcoin being based on proof of work and spending energy is that it's the only the only honest way how to make the decentralization. You can compare it to mining gold, because gold and silver has been used for 2,500 years within the civilization as proof of as a function of money, because it was very difficult to mine gold and silver, and you had to spend huge energy to make a single coin. That means that it had value to people. If there's something cheap and easily made, like today's paper money, it's losing value. Another example is in ancient Rome, when the ancient dinar, the Roman dinar started 500 BC, it was fully silver, 100% silver, and it was a very prosperous period of ancient Rome. But in later years, the Caesars found out a way how to scam their population by melting the iron and mixing it with like copper, with cheap copper, and it ended in a way that the coin was only copper, and there was a thin layer of silver on top of it, which should cover the scam. But when people were using such coins, they could see that the silvering came off, and they could see that those are copper coins. So that's the basic solution behind Bitcoin. You need to spend a lot of energy to make one Bitcoin, otherwise it's not valuable. So every second there are billions and billions of hashes being done, and you have to be lucky to find the correct one to hash one block. So you can see that there are the latest blocks. The latest one was mined about 3 minutes ago, and then one before that was at 6:40, and you can see who was the lucky one that found that block, and it's actually pools. It's called pool mining. It's not possible to get rid of them. Yeah, you can see those are pools. When me and Daniel started mining Bitcoin in 2011, there were no pools. We were mining with our own rig on ourselves, meaning it took us 1 week to find a block of 50 Bitcoin. But later on, a Czech person, a friend of mine, Marek/Palatinos, invented pool mining, which means that you connect independent computers from all over the world into one pool, and you try to solve that mathematical solution together. So the pool distributes the hashing power over the computers, and they cooperate. You can see that the biggest pools right now are Endpool and Founder USA, and also there's a Binance pool. So you can see that 2 blocks just recently were mined by Binance pool. Here you can see that there's been $2.4 billion transacted in Bitcoin, and yep, I don't know what else to say about that. And there you can see the blockchain size. So currently the blockchain size is 527 gigabytes. So if you download the Bitcoin Core software, what it will do when you start it, it will start downloading those half of terabyte of data to download the whole history of the blockchain from the Genesis block up until today. It will take you 1 or 2 days to download, and then you have a full node at home. See, there are unique addresses today. 800,000 unique addresses were transacting today. I think when we had this presentation on Tuesday, there was 1 million. So there's 200,000 less unique addresses today. Well, I think that's about it.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So once again, please put your hands together for Ron. Thank you very much for that. So I haven't received any questions here, but I would like to open up the floor for anyone if they would like to ask something from Roman about Bitcoin, about blockchain technology. If you have any queries at all. No?
You said it has a limited pool of 21 million or so. So what happens if all is traded in the near future? What about the future generation? How are they going to be able also to invest in that area?
I didn't...
Said Bitcoin has a limited, I think, pool of 21 million.
Right.
So if all is traded,
Okay.
what will happen to people that later in the future would also want to have maybe like also go into Bitcoin and more or less business?
Well, you have to buy from someone else. So like CoinMate is an exchange where people put bits and asks. So there's bits means that I'm selling Bitcoin by asking this price. Now asks are I'm asking this price, and there are bits. Those are transactions that are telling that I want to buy Bitcoin and I want to pay this much money. So you can make a bid that you want to buy Bitcoin for $1, but no one's going to sell it to you for that. But when the demand and supply meet, that's when the price is created. So for every buyer, there's a seller. You know, what happens is that if there's less and less Bitcoin being created, that's going to have a bigger and bigger pressure on the price. Meaning, so it's still not late, but it's expected that in the future, if there's no new Bitcoin being generated, then the prices will grow and grow and grow until there's no more demand for Bitcoin, and that will be the final price.
I think the last Bitcoin will be mined in 2140.
Okay.
The calculation says something like that.
But it's not the entire Bitcoin.
I know, but like the last...
It will be like 0.1 Bitcoin. The last full Bitcoin will be, I think, 2040, something like that.
And if I, for example, wanted to mine Bitcoin, what would I need to have hardware, software-wise to compete with these pools that are mining?
Well, like even a room like this, if it was full of the hardware, would not be enough for you to compete. I mean, they're called mining rigs, and there are some very big places, like a full factory of these hardware running somewhere in Iceland where there's cold weather because they're generating heat and cheap energy. So, but you can have your own mining, like you can buy a mining hardware, just plug it in and connect to one of those pools, and you will earn some small amount of Bitcoin.
And it would be worth it to get like the amount of Bitcoin you would get compared to the energy you would use?
Well, in the Czech Republic, not really.
No.
Unless you have some cheap source for energy. But you're competing against countries like Kazakhstan or Iceland or China when they have cheaper energy. So for them, it's more. It's better. But also you can just invest in mining, because someone builds a mining rig factory and you can invest in it, and that's how you take part of the mining.
Okay, right, thank you. Right. And what about if I wanted to just exchange all of my cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, into normal currency, like Czech crowns? Would I have to pay taxes or anything, like on any money that I've earned or anything like that? Like how would I go about paying for those taxes?
Well, it's kind of complicated. Every time you make an exchange, and it's not even from Bitcoin to Czech crowns, but even Bitcoin to Ethereum and back, it's called a tax event. And so it's kind of complicated. If you start buying or mining Bitcoin, then you start selling Bitcoin, you have to take that first in, last out Like you have to deduct the cost of your first Bitcoin from the one that you're selling today.
Okay,
Like
so you taxed off that
to
amount.
Tax the difference.
Mm-hmm.
But there's actually, in Czech Parliament, there's a law proposal to have tax exemption if you hold Bitcoin for more than 3 years.
Okay.
So we have to pray they actually pass it right now, because otherwise sometimes it's even impossible to have the tax report if you're like doing DeFi.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a mess. If you keep changing coins back and forth, like it's impossible to figure out what the tax
I
is.
understand. Okay. And is that where Micah will come in and help kind of clear a bit
No,
of that?
Micah doesn't help with that.
Not at all.
No,
Okay. All
no.
right. Okay. Fine. Thank you. All right.
You mentioned the abbreviation MiCA, this regulative frame. Could you explain more? How does it have connection with the future of Bitcoin, for example?
Well, MiCA is a European proposal for a complex regulation of this industry, because right now it's a gray zone. Like crypto asset has no definition in the current law. It's you treat it like a stock of bread or anything else. It's just it's not regulated at all. It has no definitions. Like in institutions that are investing, like investment funds and stuff, they aren't able to invest in Bitcoin because there's no law that they can follow, so they would get in trouble. And so MiCA is trying to solve this. There will be defined, they call it virtual currency. They have different kinds of virtual currency, and then they have the participants in the system, so it will be exchanges like us, or it will be payment gateways, or it will be advisors, or it will be custodians for crypto. And all of those have definition of what they are and how would they operate, and they will be overseen by the authority in Czech Republic, will be the Czech National Bank. And the law is actually quite discriminating because, as I mentioned before, governments don't like cryptocurrency. So what they did is that the banks will be automatically regulated through this framework, whereas companies like us, and banks have thousands and thousands of employees and clerks and bureaucrats who can follow all this very, very big law that has so many like complicated provisions of stuff that you have to do. And so for us, it will be very difficult. I think what they're trying to do is treat crypto as another asset, like gold, that you have no touch of gold. It's locked somewhere in the safe if you never see it. But the magic of Bitcoin is that you can have it with you in your pocket, right? You can have a hardware wallet, and like if you were in Ukraine and you need to escape quickly, that's what we do. Because if you would like to run with cash, that it's not that easy, and it's actually illegal to bring cash abroad. But with Bitcoin, you're very independent. It's as far as that you can have a wallet based on 12 words, and you just memorize those words. The whole of your wealth can be stored in your head. So that's the very big magic of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Mm-hmm. And so we, as an exchange, are allowing our clients to transfer Bitcoin back and forth. They actually they use this new technology to transfer value all over the world. And so we will try to get regulated by MiCA. It will be very difficult, actually.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Any other questions? No. Okay, fantastic. So thank you very much for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you at our next lecture, which will be in January, and we'll be focusing on DeFi, decentralized finance. So thank you very much once again. Have a great evening. Thank you. Thank you.